Alright, I'm going to go through the Math 6 Common Assessment, the Basic Skills and Free Response section from last year so that you can get an idea of some strategies I used to solve them as well as how many points everything would be worth. Alright, so last year the exam was split up into a multiple choice section and then the free response section. That's going to be the same this year. So you'll get a brand new packet that starts right here. Alright, first you'll see the basic skills section. Okay, this is one thing. Last year we had tiny dots. You will see the bigger dots that you're used to in multiplication problems. I am going to quickly just cross off a few of these, so if your teacher just printed you this exam, you can cross them off with me because last year we were in a slightly different point in our curriculum and we had already dealt with all integer operations, whereas this year we've only dealt with adding. So far, that's all that we're going to test on the common assessment. So you can go ahead and cross off E right now. And you can also cross off, nope, that's it, E. Okay. Alright, everything else we should be able to do. So, starting right here, 13 and 12 hundredths times 25 hundredths. You have two options here. Number one, you can multiply them as decimals. Number two, you can change them to fractions and multiply them as fractions, because we don't need common denominators there, and then we don't need to worry about a decimal point and place value. I'm going to show it both ways. We'll start with the decimal way. When I multiply decimals, I'm going to temporarily forget about my decimal point and just write the digits that I have. That means I can drop that leading zero. I'm just going to say 312 times 25. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 1 is 6. 5 times 3 is 15. Don't forget the place value. We're starting in the tens place here. We need our answer to start in the tens place as well. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Add it all up. Not a whole lot of room. 5, 6, 7, 8. But I got an answer of 7,800. Ooh, those numbers might be, the digits might be right, but that seems like a lot. Because this is basically, let's think about it like money. $3.12. Is that close to $3 or $4? It's closer to $3, right? So we'll say this is about 3. And then this is not even one whole. It's less than half. We're going to say this is about 0. 3 times 0 is 0. So my answer should not be in the thousands place. It's actually going to be wherever I can put my decimal to make this closest to 0. Putting a decimal here makes it 780. That's not super close to 0. 78, closer to 0, but still pretty far away. 7 and 8 tenths. Yep, getting smaller, but you can make it even smaller by putting your decimal right here and putting a leading 0 in. 78 hundredths is as small a number you can make with the digits you've got. You can also double check it by saying, hey, I had 1, 2, 3, 4 digits behind decimals in total. So I want 1, 2, 3, 4 digits of my answer to be behind a decimal. So you could write your answer as 0 and 78 hundredths. You don't need those zeros at the end if you don't want, but you could definitely put them in. Answers have to be on the line in order to be graded. So if you write it over here and circle it, yay, that's the right answer, but if you don't put it up here, we're not going to grade it. So make sure you are ending with putting your answer on the line. Let's say you look at that and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. Let's change it. 3 and 12 hundredths times 25 hundredths. Okie dokie, that's a lot. I could simplify my fractions and say this is 3 and, I'll simplify that later, but I definitely know this is 1/4. 12 and 100, they both can be divided by 2. They can also both be divided by 4. I'm thinking of common factors of these. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 100 divided by 4 is 25. I don't have any other common factors. That's as simple as it gets. So then I could go, well, I've got to make this a fraction, because when I'm multiplying fractions times fractions, they have to be fractions, not mixed numbers. 25 times 3 is 75, plus 3 is 75, 76, 77, 78. So I have 78 25ths times 1/4. I like to simplify before I multiply so that I don't need to worry about it after. So I'm going to say I can see nothing to simplify here, nothing to simplify here, but remember 78 times 1 is the same thing as 1 times 78. So I can simplify across. These are both even, I can divide them by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 78 divided by 2, let's see. 2 goes into 7, 2, 4, 6, 8, too much. 3 times. Bring down my 8. 2 goes into 18, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, up 9 times. No remainder, that's good. Alright, so now I'm looking at 39 25ths times 1/2. Okay. If I can't simplify anymore, I can multiply. And that means this would be my final answer. I don't need to simplify it. I could also do this. I could have just multiplied straight across. Because look, 25 times 4 is 100. 78 times 1 is 78. And then turn that into a decimal. Or I could leave this as a fractional answer. So whether you put 78 hundredths or 39 50ths, so long as that whole fraction is above the line, either of those would be correct. Moving to the next one. I just remembered over here I cannot multiply mixed numbers. They have to be fractions, whether they're proper or improper. So I'm going to say that 1 whole and 1/5 is 5 times 1 is 5 plus 1 is 6/5. And what that Texas method is really doing, it's saying 1 whole and 1/5. 1 whole and 1/5 is really broken into the same size parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the size of the pieces are fifths, 6/5. Okay, we're going to multiply that times 3, 4, 5 thirds. Here's the nice thing. 6 times 5 is the same thing as 5 times 6, so I can swap the order 5/5. That's really a fancy one. 1 times anything, it's going to be the same thing. So 1 times 6/3 is going to be 6/3. Remember that fractions are really division problems. 6 divided by 3. There's my answer. You have to have a simplified answer. 2 over 1 is not simplified enough. The simplest way to write that is just as 2 wholes. Okay, next one. -10 plus -5. I can use an integer war chart and say that's 10 points for the negative team. And then this one, another 5 points for the negative team. Yay, negatives, they win. Their total amount of points in the first round was 10, the second round was 5. In total, they have 15 points. Now, you can see here I'm getting kind of messy. It's okay to box your answer when it's on the line. You just can't box it when it's off the line. So if you want to make it even more clear, that's totally fine. Alright, next one, some decimal division. Ooh, okay. Well, I know other ways to write division. I can write it like a fraction. This is the same problem. And I can say, I know how to change the look of a fraction without changing the actual amount that it's representing. I'm going to multiply it by 1. Because anything times 1 is still itself. But I want to multiply it times a fancy one in a way that will get rid of that decimal, because I can't have a decimal in my divisor. So I need to move my decimal 1 place to the right, which is going to be the equivalent of multiplying by 10. Because multiplying by 10, we move that decimal 1 place over. So I'm going to say that I now have 144 eighths. You can then throw this back into the division house kind of problem, or you can simplify your fraction here. I'm going to show you both ways. Let's see, 144, maybe I just don't know my multiples very well. I can see they're both even. I'm just going to start simplifying by 2 and see where it gets me. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 144 divided by 2 is 72. They're both still even. Okay, I can keep simplifying by 2's. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 72 divided by 2 is 7, 2, 4, 6. 3 times goes in there with a remainder of 1. 12. That goes in 6 times. Ooh, 36 divided by 2. I know that one. That's going to be 18. I think that's my answer. Let me check it over here. I can make groups of 8 with 1. No, I can't. I can make groups of 8 with 14. Yes, I can. How many? 8, 16, just 1. Oops. Subtract. That goes into 6. Bring down my 4. 8 goes into 64. I can make groups of 8. I can make 8 groups of 8 with 64 with no remainder, and check it out. I got the same answer. Yes. There you go. We're going to skip over E because we haven't learned that in class yet. That will be on the next common assessment though. Alright, here we go. I'm going to follow my GEMDAS. And that means groupings come first. Anything inside the groupings. 32 minus 16 is 16. Divided by 4 to the power of 2. I don't need the parentheses anymore because it's only one number inside my parentheses. Oops, I drew all of that. But I can choose to leave them or I can choose to drop them. Alright, groupings are done. Next up, exponents. Does this mean 4 times 2? No. It means 4 times itself 2 times. So it means 4 times 4, which is 16. Done with my exponents. Multiplying or dividing, whichever comes first. 16 divided by 16, that's 1. Moving on. Alright, a division problem with fractions. Just like multiplication, you can only have fractions when you're dividing. You can't have whole numbers or mixed numbers, so I'm going to change this mixed number real quick into a fraction, an improper fraction. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4 thirds, 2 fourths, divided by 4 thirds. Alright, when I have a fraction division problem, I'm going to keep my first one, change to a multiplication, and multiply by the reciprocal, which is that flip step. I'm going to see if there's anything I can simplify before I start. Ooh, 2 fourths I can simplify. 2 fourths is equivalent to 1/2. If I divide this by 2, that's 1. If I divide this by 2, it's 2. If I simplify now, that means I don't have to simplify later. 3 fourths, nope, can't simplify that. Can 3 and 2 simplify? No. 1 and 4, no. Okay, I'm good. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 4 is 8. Double checking, 3/8. Prime number, not a multiple of 3. Okay, cool. My simplest fraction. Do not write this. All we will grade is the 3 because that's what's on the line, not below the line. So you want to write an answer of 3/8. You are writing 3/8 and all of it sits above the fraction bar. If you wanted to change that to a decimal because somehow you did this in decimals instead, totally fine. Alright, adding integers. 65 is positive. 75 points for the negative team. Who wins? 65 points or 75 points? Ooh, they win. By how many? Well, there are 10 more points in here. And if you don't believe me, we can do winner minus loser. 10 points more, and it's going to have the sign of the winning team. There's our answer. Alright, another fraction division problem, but we don't need to change anything here. They're both already fractions. 3/6, keep, change, flip to the reciprocal. Alright, anything I can simplify. 5 and 1, the only common factor is 1. 5 and 6, only common factor is 1. 3 and 1, only common factor is, ooh, right there, 3/6. That simplifies to 1/2 times 5 over 1. Again, when I simplify beforehand, I don't have to worry about it after. That gives me 5/2. If I hadn't simplified, I'd get 15/6. And then I would need to simplify and find a common factor of 3 that I could divide by. I like to try and avoid that step because sometimes finding common factors is harder when they're bigger numbers than when they're smaller numbers. Okay, so 5/2, that's one way to write your answer. Or we could say this is actually 2 wholes and 1/2. Or we could say that it is 2 and 5/10. Any of those would get you credit. What I want to make sure that you are aware of is if you get one of these wrong, let's say you accidentally said that this is 2 and 4/10. These two are still right. This one is wrong. But if you're telling me that this is the same as that, which is the same as that, and that one's wrong, then you don't get credit for any of this. So even though it's great that I listed all my correct options here, I would say pick your first one, just go with that 5/2, or however you choose to answer it, and just have your one answer, because you're running a risk when you put multiple equivalent answers. If one of those is incorrect, then you don't get credit for any of that work. So keep that in mind when you're trying to list out multiple answers. Alrighty, last one, and then we're done with the basic skills. I need to follow GEMDAS. Okay, starting with my group. I'm going to look inside my grouping symbols, so I'm not going to worry about this yet. 12 minus 8. That's going to be 4, and I'm going to rewrite the whole thing because I want to be super careful I don't miss a step. Solving little bits off to one side, that's going to just result in me being confused about my final answer. Okay, if there's only one number inside my grouping symbol, I'm done. Exponent. 4 to the power of 2 means 4 multiplied times itself 2 times. So 4 times 4 is 16. I'm going to rewrite 8 plus 16, all of that divided by 2. Done with my exponent. Now I'm going to do my multiplying or dividing. So we haven't learned this yet, but I could use the distributive property of division and say this divided by 2 applies to everything in here. This is the same as 8 divided by 2 plus 16 divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 16 divided by 2 is 8. I'm thinking my final answer is going to be 12. This is an interesting one because you could actually do the addition here first. If you consider this like a whole group of what's supposed to be your one numerator, you could do that first. 8 plus 16 is going to be 24. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So this is one strange problem where you could actually solve it in multiple different ways. We haven't quite gotten there, but this is the more correct way to solve it because you're following your order of operations and using that fraction bar as division. Alright, that's it for the basic skills section. I will start another video for the free response.